Welcome to the Top Order podcast. On this week's show, we're going to be talking an IPL auction recap. Starc and Cummins go for some crazy crawl. CSK masquerading as New Zealand, but will Rachin even get a game? The Gujarat Titans pick up an Aussie left armour for 10 crore. Could that be the bargain pick of the IPL draft? It wasn't Mitch that we're talking about. Plus our wildly inaccurate predictions, all coming up on the Top Order podcast. IPL 2024 auction recap. Stay tuned.
41, 42, 43. Perfect. Well done.
Well, boys, we've got a lot of cricket coming up. Bordy referring there to the fact that they asked me to do a 43-second intro with no prep. I'd already prepped the intro. I didn't know how many seconds it's going to be, so I've tried to stretch out a little bit. If you jangle your keys, that's probably good for the listener, Bordy.
Really good for the audio quality.
Yeah.
They fell out of my pocket. I apologise.
No problem. Apology accepted.
Professional start here.
Boys, it's Cricketmas. We've got a lot of episodes coming up over the course of the next 2 or 3 weeks. This is going to be our IPL auction recap. We're then going to come up in your feed as well. We're going to talk about our 2023 highlights and our 2024 preview as well, all on the Top Order podcast feed over the course of the next 3 or 4 weeks. So if our hair length and jumper choices don't change over the next 3 episodes, you'll know from a continuity perspective, we've recorded all of this around about the 20th of December here in New Zealand. But it was the IPL auction, mini auction, I think we should say. So a lot of the squad's already obviously full of talent, but some significant purchases, which hopefully have helped, the CPI figures for the quarter.
I was saying to Bully, it's surely helped the Australian economy.
It's probably helped the Indian economy. Well, I guess it depends in which tax haven Mitchell Starc keeps his money.
Look, Australia GDP went up 0.5%, and we're up on the ASX today on the back of this IPL auction.
So look, that might be a good place to start. So let's look at the IPL auction recap, mini auction. Calcutta Knight Riders, probably certainly the headline of the auction from a monetary perspective. Mitchell Starc going for 24.75 crore. And the thing that really astounded me when you kind of looked at that was literally no one else in their auction picks last night went for more than 2 crore.
Yeah.
That they really have
31 or something, 31 crore.
He used the PlayStation 5 and all the rest are just stocking fillers, aren't they? Little things picked up from Kmart almost. But what do we think about them going for that amount of cash?
You say that he's the PlayStation 5, but didn't they need him though? Like I feel like the bowling stocks in that side in general are probably a bit lower than they are across the board. But I have no problem spending that kind of money on him. He hasn't been in the IPL since 2015, I think I wrote in my note.
18 he was picked, wasn't he? And then injured, yeah.
So, why not? Why not pick a fast bowler who has a lot of impact with the white ball?
And Gus Atkinson, bargain buy, only cost them 1 crore. Great backup for Cummins, bowls good wheels. I think that's
Starc.
For Starc. Yep, great backup.
Yeah, I've written down here on my notes, I don't know whether you're looking at them, I've got an Atkinson pick and then some illegible shit just in case you were still in my notes.
I was just looking at this one here where it said Atkinson 1.
So look, I absolutely think he could be an absolute gun. Unlikely that he's probably going to get in the side to start with Gus Atkinson, but yeah, certainly is impressed. So a couple of good pickups for KKR.
It was a big, it was a massive day for a lot of seamers out there, but I do, I think we'll get to Sunrisers obviously about what they did and how they ended up spending their money. Cummins obviously had the record for the highest purchase in the auction for, I think it was under an hour. Just the way that it kind of panned out with Starc taking over. But I would disagree with you, Raj, a little bit about spending all of that money on Starc, because when I look at that KKR side, I think that they needed to strengthen in a lot of areas.
Yep.
And I think the fact that they've gone out and spent on Starc meant that particularly, it's not all getting onto comparing it to the Sunrisers. Sunrisers now have 8 players, overseas players, that could all, make a case to be in their starting 4. the KKR probably have an easier decision there maybe on their overseas players, but I think in that sense they probably could have made better money trying to buy some Indian players and strengthen their core, so I don't really know what they were doing, and I think they might have I think a few teams have kind of got a bit excited with, we have to have these players, which is always sort of what you see in the IPL. Players get huge money because of they sell shirts and an owner wants them, or all sorts of different reasons why they're picked up. But yeah, I thought the Starc one in particular was kind of wild.
But so that's a question broadly for the panel. So I watched a little bit of the auction last night and was flicking between that and the Big Bash actually. A question. There seemed to be quite a lot of talk, and there was quite a lot of senior heads in the room. Mahela Jayawardene was in the room, Ricky Ponting was in the room, I think Mo Bobat was in the room. So some of the guys that are driving some of the strategy, Dan Vettori I think was there as well. Yeah. And it seemed to be quite considered, and a lot of the teams took a little bit of time to discuss what they were going to do in terms of their auction picks. But do we think the heart ruled the head in a few of those picks yesterday? Do you think there is still some vanity in the way that these teams are picked, or do you think it is all done by the analysts?
Yes, is the answer to that for me.
Yes, there's vanity?
Yes, yeah. I think that there's a lot more to picking a player for your IPL squad. You're thinking about selling shirts, you're thinking about selling tickets, who's going to be in your ad campaign. But look, I think that picking someone like Mitchell Starc, who can bowl 4 devastating overs, especially at the top of the innings, and hit a ball if he needs to, is actually not a bad option to go along with some of the likes of Andre Russell that they've got there. You've got 2 guys who could win a game themselves.
Look, yeah, absolutely. Let's not talk about Andre Russell's death bowling though of recent times. But yeah, that could be old news by the time IPL 2024 rolls around. Baldy, anything from you? You were looking like you wanted to interject. Yeah.
I just think in the absence of genuine, top quality superstar Indian players, if you go all in on an international, I think you want to spend your international money on 4 absolute gun superstars who can win you games of cricket. And I don't mind that KKR have gone with Starc, Russell, etc., Jason Roy. All guys, have they got Jason Roy already in their squad?
There.
So 3 or 4 guys there that can absolutely win you 3 or 4 games in the tournament off their own bat, which is kind of, as we spoke to Colin Munro, what their role is in the tournament. So I don't mind that they went all in on Starc, but like you say, they're probably a little bit light in terms of other than maybe Shreyas Iyer and Venkatesh Iyer. They've got and Rinku Singh, so they've got some good. So they've got some really good players, but yeah, a lot's going to depend, I think, on their internationals to win them games of cricket.
I'm just going to time box this because we're 10 teams, we're 6 minutes in, and this was meant to be a 30-minute podcast, so that even my math is telling me we're going to struggle. Let's, as long as you promise not to sing the song, let's talk about the Sunrisers. So that they were the other team that I think we wanted to talk about from an Australian scene perspective, picking up Pat Cummins for 20 and a half. Travis Head gets a payday, which I think is probably well deserved, but Wanindu Hasaranga probably the pick of the bunch for them at 1.5 crore.
Yeah, no other bids for Hasaranga. It was so weird watching that auction. It's always really weird just watching the auction, kind of in the sense that that they're bidding on players and just the life-changing. I remember kind of one of the first episodes we did was talking to Shane Bond, and how he talked about watching the auction and kind of understanding just the life-changing nature of it. And I mean, you talked about Starc. I saw Alyssa Healy did quality social media
such a great reaction
from her, just picking up a pint glass, eyes lighting up, and taking a sip from her, and just the life-changing nature. And Daryl Mitchell's mentioned that, but yeah, I mean, SHR, you mentioned it before, they're going to have such a tough time picking picking their 4 overseas to play, because they've got they picked up 3 quality guys that you've just named, and they had 4-5 good overseas players already.
Here's the list, right, of overseas players for Sunrisers: Travis Head, Aidan Markram, Glenn Phillips, Heinrich Klaassen, Marco Janssen, I'm sure I'm going to miss one here, Pat Cummins, Fazal Haq Faruqi, I think, is an international player. Hasaranga as well. So they've got 8, maybe even 9, I might have missed one in there as well, that are all capable of playing. So their challenge, and they've traditionally relied a lot on their international players to win them games. I think they've spread their money too thin, perhaps.
And the reason I actually love the Pat Cummins pickup is that they actually had a lot of bases covered before they picked him up, and he is literally, I think, in one of the articles I saw, the cherry on top He's going to go in there and he can have an absolute influence on the game, but he doesn't need to. He's got superstars all around him.
Yeah, well, I mean, Daniel Vettori, it's interesting, Daniel Vettori's been in and around that Australian team, and then two Australians, big paydays. It was weird seeing him there. I know we sort of have seen him recently without the beard, but, seeing him without the beard is just such a strange experience for me. But it was interesting because lots of people talked about how Pat Cummins and Starc both got massively overpaid, but he put it quite well in terms of, like, if you group our two or three players together that we have bought here, Travis Head, Hasaranga and Cummins, and said we had this pool of money that we were going to spend on three players, and you actually add them up, the fact that Hasaranga went so cheaply meant we want Cummins, we're just going to pay what it takes to get him. And it actually, I guess if you look at it that way, it's sort of fair enough.
Yeah, and look, pop in the comments, how does the auction work in terms of the order that they picked out? Because it went, spinners early doors, didn't it? And then I think even keepers before the seamers came, is that right?
It goes, they're grouped into pots, international players, capped players and uncapped players, and then, grouped by category, batting, batters, bowlers, all-rounders.
Let's move on to the Chennai Chennai Super Kings. So I think probably from a New Zealand perspective, obviously the news from last night was Raj's mate Rachin getting a gig, Daryl Mitchell as well picking up some serious craw as well. They've got most bases covered through their side. Again, they're probably going to have some questions, and it's going to be difficult to fit in three New Zealand top order players, isn't it, with Conway already there, Daryl Mitchell and then Rachin, Ravindra as well. But thoughts on the CSK? You guys will be going out to buy your yellow jerseys, won't you?
Mate, I was looking for one yesterday. I found this beautiful hoodie for about $75, so quite pricey. But this red or this yellow, really nice yellow hoodie with this lion on it. I was very, very tempted.
It's actually an interesting one because we've mentioned opportunities are going to be very hard to come by for anyone in this team. And I tell you what, if they start poorly, MS Dhoni and Ajinkya Rahane are going to have a lot of pressure on them to perform. So it's going to be an interesting one.
For Rachin, I guess there's two things. There was a huge amount of buzz that he was going to get probably the money almost that Daryl Mitchell got. So in some ways, you're sort of feeling like, oh, okay, he went for less than people thought he might. But I love that he's gone to CSK, even though there's a chance that he might not play many games. For someone like him and his stage of his career to spend 2 months with MS Dhoni and Stephen Fleming, side by side and sitting and chatting cricket. The limited time that we spent talking to Rachin, he's going to soak up every single moment of that, and it's going to be great.
You know what excites me is that he's in the same team as Jadeja. How much is that going to learn from bowling with those two guys in the nets? I think it's just the best place he could possibly land. Fantastic for him, even though he's going to probably be behind Conway and maybe Mitchell in terms of the pecking order for CSK.
And you say there Jadeja, there's Mo Ali, who's very in terms of kind of what they bring to the side. Bowl a few overs, bat in the top order or anywhere. I guess for Moeen Ali and Rachin can probably do that kind of job in a T20. So it's going to be tough for him on the field, but fantastic that he's going to be in that squad and joining a squad with such mana, I guess, and a side that just won the comp.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking of sides that have won the comp, we'll come on to.
Can we talk about Daryl Mitchell? Because I think
we are a New Zealand-based cricket podcast after all. Yeah,
I'm just so delighted for him.
Yeah,
it was awesome to see that kind of develop, and it was even with Rachin's one. Sometimes you don't know how this auction's going to go, and you see the bidding, and then they take a little while to kind of get involved, and then other team jumps in, and another team jumps in, and there was a little bidding war with Mitchell. And then when it's serious when someone else has just been sitting there waiting, and when when one of the teams looks like they're about to drop out, and a third team jumps in, and that's kind of what happened with Mitchell. And it was just like, okay, we're skyrocketing now. And for a guy that has it took him a long time to get to international cricket, but over the last 18 months, 2 years, he's gone from being a fringe player for New Zealand who can kind of fit a lot of different roles in different formats to absolutely establishing himself himself as, one of the first names on the team sheet in all 3 formats for New Zealand. His average across, I think I saw today, he's played the most games of international cricket over the past 18 months. I think
of any nation,
only
wow.
Sky, or it was game. I think maybe it was games or international games. I can't quite remember, but only Sky I think had one fewer than him. So that's kind of remarkable when you think about the amount of games that New Zealand play compared to some of the other nations. But he has worked super hard to earn this money and just delivered on all levels. So yeah, I'm really, really stoked for him.
And he bats at 4, which is huge for that team. They had a bit of a hole at 4 at CSK last year. It's the only real weakness.
And he's great
in
against spin. I think he'll do an awesome job.
Look, absolutely agree. Stoked for him. I love watching him play. Him and to be honest, Mitch Marsh at the moment in that almost a similar role. In fact, really like watching their big grey nickels come down and hit straight and over the sight screen. It's the best place to hit. Let's talk about Mumbai Indians, whether any of us brave enough to repeat the predictions we made off air about how poorly they might do.
Well, there was only one of us
in this tournament. But I guess the pickups last night really, Gerald Coetzee, 5 core, he impressed in that World Cup, didn't he? So yeah, put himself well and truly in the shop window. And I think Madushanka as well was the other one from the World Cup that we talked a hell of a lot about during the course of the World Cup. So from a seaming perspective, be interesting to see whether and teams have gone in with several left arm options, haven't they, over the course of the last few IPL? So whether or not there's room for Jason Behrendorff and Madushanka,
I say no.
I guess time will tell. But yeah, thoughts on Mumbai? They look light batting wise for me with Tim David at 6.
Let
me rephrase that before we get loads of comments. Their batting is heavily reliant, I think, on the top 5, which is absolutely packed full of class with Sharma, Kishan, Sky, Pandya, Verma. But then it gets a little bit shaky, I think, from six down. Tim David's a bit of a shit or bust.
Icing on the top, isn't he?
Yeah, and then I think then when you start to look at that tail of Wadira, Coetzee, Chawla, Bumrah, Behrendorff, that's where I think they don't have that lower order depth. They're going to rely on that top 5.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that they're asking a lot of a small core of players, as you mentioned there, to do it every night. And I think that's a hard thing to do every night after night. I think Madushanka, I'm really excited to see him in the IPL. He's at a great World Cup, but people now have footage of him, know what he does. He's going to have to do something different.
That'll be the real test.
It'll be interesting to see what he does there. But look, Mumbai are a good club, a good franchise. They'll always perform, but they're asking a lot of a few players, I feel.
Can I make just one comment? I think they're a world-class spinner short of being a contender. They've got Nabi, they've got Romario Shepherd, but if you have a look at some of the other spinners in some of those top flight sides, they are better than the spin attack that Mumbai is going to be able to put on the park, I think.
I disagree with you. Well, I disagree with you guys in the sense that I think they had weaknesses in terms of their seam attack, and I think they absolutely addressed them last night in terms of their, getting Coetzee, getting Madushanka, getting Thasar, isn't it, from Sri Lanka as well. Another Malinga kind of clone. There's now a couple of them in the IPL. So yeah, I think they actually did a really nice job. Charlotte, look, he's been around a while, but he did a really nice job for them last year. They, I actually think the biggest challenge for them is going to be whether all the stuff about Hardik and kind of the fallout of him taking over the captaincy. There's been a lot of sort of cryptic-ish messages on social media from the likes of Sky and Bumrah and stuff, like heartbreaks when Rohit Sharma is removed of the captaincy and Hardik is now in. In my head, when that happened, I sort of thought, okay, Sharma must be on board. The guys must be on board with this. Hardik Pandya is a Mumbai guy. He's probably coming back here, and everyone's stoked to kind of get the gang back together. But if that's not the case, then I don't know. Like that seems concerning.
I don't think we're going to know the answer to that, are we?
No, we're not. But look, there's rumours flying around that Rohit's going to leave and all this stuff. Mumbai's disputing them. I think that off-field stuff actually has in my head, a bigger chance to disrupt this side than actually their 11 looks pretty strong.
But that's the thing, their 11 looks strong. What if Rohit, Hardik and Jasprit get injured in the next 4 months?
What if
no, but my point is,
players?
No, but other squads have like-for-like replacements.
They've got the depth charts up there.
There isn't the depth there. But look,
That's fair, yeah.
Only time will tell. When there's more memes of your owner than there are of your players, you've got problems. Anyway, let's move on. Rajasthan Royals. So didn't spend super big. Picked up Rovman Powell, 7.4 crore. Shubman Dubey as well for just under 6 crore. Bit of, I guess a bit of recency bias with Rovman Powell going well in that series in the Caribbean at the moment. Also leading the Royals in the CPL. I was excited as well for Tom Kohler-Cadmore. He was a guy that burst onto the scene in England probably, 8-9 years ago. Was at Worcestershire alongside a little bit of controversy. He wasn't implicated in that, but was in and around that group of players, and that might have blotted his copybook a little bit, I think, through the early part of his career. But I actually think he's a chance if he performs in the nets. Shimron Hetmyer just been dropped again by the West Indies, and has had some sort of fitness issues and has been in and out of his side. So I'm excited for the English the English contingent there with Joss Buttler obviously still in the side and Kohler-Cadmore.
What I love about this side is actually their Indian bowling core.
Yep.
Yes,
absolutely, 100% with you,
Krishna, Avesh Khan, Ravi Ashwin, and Navdeep Saini as well.
To get Avesh Khan, you talked about before they didn't spend much money. I think the best business they did was actually get that trade to get Avesh Khan, because they had Padikkal last year, didn't they? But he sort of just didn't really need him because they had all of that other firepower up front, and it just wasn't really required. But adding Avesh Khan to that bowling attack, it looks very strong now, doesn't it?
Premiership window open, I feel.
100%.
It's been open for a while, hasn't it? And they haven't quite been able to capitalise. They obviously got to the final.
3-4-5 need to do a big job for the Royals, right? They've got superstars everywhere else, but I think 3-4-5 is where those guys need to step up and really.
But they do have a good track record as well. We need them to step up, I just need them to step up, but they've done the job before.
Yeah, and I guess useful backup in the spin department as well. Ravindra Chahal, I think, has been good. So I think they've
and Zampa.
And absolutely. I think they got some good options. Let's move on to the Delhi Capitals. Can we talk for a moment about? I think that their wicket keeping stocks. They let Phil Salt go. I still can't believe he's answered it in pretty fine style this morning. But 100 the day before the auction doesn't get picked up in the auction, and then another T20 100. But they must be pretty confident that Rishabh Pant might come to fitness, although they've got some options with the gloves as well. But a couple of pickups: Kumar Kshagra, Jai Richardson, and Harry Brook as well, who, according to I guess the probable 11s, people are penciling him in already. It'd be interesting to see whether that happens. I'm certainly excited to see that. But thoughts on the Delhi Caps?
It was cool to see Rishabh Pant back, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Smiling and sitting it there. You sort of forget what a figure he was in the Indian side, and just becoming a superstar. And the fact that he was sitting there now, devastating injury for him. Obviously, it's taken him so long. It'll be fascinating to see how he comes back. And they are talking about that he's going to be fit for the IPL. So hopefully that happens. Hopefully he can get some cricket under his belt, because they're a side that I look at on paper and think they might struggle a bit. So actually, I think getting him back and the Rishabh Pant that, from 2 years ago before this injury, I think would be pretty crucial to their chances.
And where do you see them struggling with the batting or the bowling?
I think they're short an Indian bowler of some kind, a local bowler, pace bowler, spinner, whatever that is. I think they're just slightly short. They've got those good overseas players on the batting, offensive side of the ball. I don't know if they have got the players. They've got Ngidi, they've got Nokia and Jai Richardson, but the balance-wise, I don't know where that fits. I think they're short an Indian bowler.
If they've got 3 overseas players in their top 5, it makes that hard to balance that attack. I really like the pickup of Shai Hope. I think he's a really good cricketer, and at only 75 lakh, that's bargain basement prices for a guy
who... It's not ODI cricket, though, that's the problem.
We'll just tell him
only ODI cricket is...
Just tell him it's an ODI.
Just look at his averages.
Just tell him it's an ODI.
Bet 20
It's a rain-reduced ODI.
He opens the batting, tell him to bet 20 overs. It's fine, no problem. Great backup for Punt.
Yeah, but I guess that they've picked up a couple of other guys that can keep wicket as well. He's not even listed as a keeper, according to which I find his gloves will be in his bag, I'm sure. Punjab Kings. Harshal Patel, just under 12 crore. Riley Russo, South African, getting picked up, and a return for Chris Wokes. I think that's his fourth, certainly his third IPL gig. But yeah, anything you want to talk about from there, from a wins or?
I've been quite harsh in my commentary, my notes here. I said, that, Punjab Kings were a good team. They're a good team 4 years ago. At the moment, they've got players there who are great names who have formed in the past. I'm looking at the likes of Bairstow, Curran, Rabada, Darwan, Rahul Chahar. These are great players. 4 years ago, 3 years ago.
Yeah,
how are they going to go next year? I don't know.
Where's the 22, 23-year-old that's going to take them to the next level? None of them jump off the page.
Even Harshal Patel, it strikes me as weird that he keeps getting these massive paychecks and then released. The franchises are like, oh, you didn't live up to your paycheck, we might release you, and then he'll just gets another paycheck. Look, I mean, he's a handy cricketer. I'm not, he's a useful player, but yeah, Punjab's always kind of been. I don't know if it's those uniforms. Maybe I just find them a boring team. I just pale. I don't know. I'm not a uniforms guy, but I don't like theirs. And
you spent 5 minutes talking about the Sunrisers hoodie that you found earlier on.
So good. It was so good.
Where it all went wrong for them is they bid on the wrong Shashank Singh.
Is that right?
That was fantastic, wasn't it?
So they bid on a player called Shashank Singh, won the auction or won his services, and then realised they bid on the wrong Shashank Singh, and then tried to unbid for him. Whoops. That's it.
But they got him for 20 lakhs.
It's
so
not.
yeah.
Is that a real thing?
That's
oh my goodness, that's good.
I saw that on the Murdoch press this morning. That was quite hilarious.
The very wee hours of our morning.
Yeah, I did actually write that down. I said reliant upon four ageing England players, and that's slightly harsh on Sam Curran, who's still got time to be the next Jack Scalise, I'm sure.
or Liam Livingstone.
Absolutely, and he went well today as well for England, Liam Livingstone. Right, let's talk about the Gujarat Titans. They got the best Australian left arm seamer of the bunch, didn't they? But look, jokes aside, picking up a guy who's had some big bash form, Spencer Johnson for 10 crore. Also Umesh Yadav, I guess sort of bolstering, I guess, the seaming stocks there as well. But yeah, thoughts on them? Obviously, expansion team coming in a couple of years ago, doing pretty well. Again, I look at the batting. I'm not 100% sure on their batting.
Kane's in that team as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And Azmatullah Elmazai is someone I love that I think that's a steal to get him for 50 lakh. That was amazing to get him for that after the World Cup that he had.
Yep.
The thing is about Gujarat is I thought this 2 years ago when I looked at their lineup, and then they won, and then they made the final. Like they've just. I mean, I know they had Hardik then, and obviously they've lost him for
this is a different
money.
side without him.
And I do think that will make a big difference, but.
I really like their squad overall. I think they've got the option to traverse horses for courses, whatever the pitch is going to show or whatever the opposition is going to play. I think they've got a number of options. Umesh Yadav's a massive one for me. He's not even in their probable 12 that Cricinfo put up, but he's a
that's a weird probable 12, eh?
Massive inclusion in local bowler as well.
If you have a look at that probable 12 that Cricinfo put up, it's like the 2, 3, 4 on that side doesn't look particularly.
Kane Williamson.
Well, exactly, but anyhow.
And I'm assuming they got Johnson after they failed in their bid for Starc, because they'd already got Josh Little in the side as a left arm option as well. So
Spencer Johnson, what's his report?
Big rise for Spencer Johnson. He hadn't played Big Bash this time last year. He hadn't made his Big Bash debut December 2022. So big rise for Spencer Johnson. I mean, it's a fairy tale rags to riches story for him. But let's see how he performs in the white hot competitive environment of the IPL.
Well, let's see how he goes when they're not home speed guns. I think is probably the key. The old Aussie turning the speed gun up trick.
I'm not going to buy it, Adam.
You're not, fair enough.
It must be just about time for Raj's RCB side, isn't it?
No. We've got one more.
We got one more to go. So it is the Giants who are super.
They're not just regular Giants.
Not just regular Giants. So Shivam Marvi, 6.5 crore thereabouts. Siddharth for a couple of crore, and David Willey. I was nice to see him get picked up after retiring from international cricket. He's going to be able to fill the coffers with some franchise cash. But that pre-auction trade for Padikkal, I think, key for their squads. But again, where do they look weak? Is it the Indian batting? Is it what do they need to do?
Well, the note I wrote down for them is I feel like they're missing 2020 X factor. I think they've got, Padikkal, they've got Wood, they've got who's the other one? Quinton de Kock. If you're expecting these guys to go out, Quinton de Kock's going to just score 800 runs. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like they're missing some X factor around that.
Other than QDK,
the thing is that Quinton de Kock and Rahul could score 800 runs each. Like, it's as simple as that, and that's kind of been their format for how they sort of built their franchise the last couple of years and performed. So I think that's realistic. But yeah, I agree that they feel more top heavy than some of the other sides.
And I've not got the stats, but I've got a feeling Carl Mayers went well last year for them. Or was that the season before?
They're all blending into one, but I think you're right. I think he did okay. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. You're certainly not an X-factor player, but yes, certainly someone who hits the ball and times the ball pretty sweetly. Do we want to move on to the RCB? So, of course, this is when I think I turned the auction on, and Alzarri Joseph was up for auction. That one, a little bit of a battle there. He ended up getting nearly 12 crore. Some New Zealand interest in this one as well. Lockie Ferguson getting picked up alongside Yashdale, Tom Curran, and then a couple of Indian pickups as well. But what are our thoughts here? They've lost obviously Hasaranga, who we talked about earlier on. They've got a pretty decent sort of batting if Faf and Virat do what they did last year. Glenn Maxwell coming off a stellar World Cup. I still think Cameron Green looks too high at 5 for me. Or maybe not too high at 5, but that's not his natural position. I don't think he's T20, is it?
No, and he did a pretty good job for Mumbai last year, batting at kind of 6-ish. I think he batted a couple of games at 3. But yeah, I think you're right. I think he's more of a 25 off 9 kind of finisher rather than a guy who bats for maybe more balls. So it'll be interesting to see how they balance. They've got Kartik in there as well.
You're big on Green, aren't you?
My thing with Green is I don't think that we should limit his possibilities. I think that throw him in where they think that he fits and let him see let's see what he does. I think he has a lot of potential to do whatever. Score 80 runs with the bat and take 3 for with the ball.
He's going to get a lot of freedom, right? Because he's got so many match winners around him that it's not up to him to score all the runs and take all the wickets. Yeah. Any contribution he makes almost to the team outcome is a positive one and a bonus. My sort of drawback with RCB, or my worry for them, is I feel like Glenn Maxwell and Cameron Green are actually going to have an impact with the ball. I'm not sure what that looks like, but look, at the end of the day, they can chase whatever they need to. It's just RCP don't want them to have to chase 220 every game.
Yep. That was exactly my notes as well. I just feel like when you look at their side, they've got one of the easier decisions, and I actually applaud the strategy of let's get 4 overseas players that we think, let's get the absolute gun 4 overseas players that we think, and then kind of get cheaper backups for those players if we can. Let's not do I feel like that's better business than your Sunrisers who have 8, gun overseas players that they can't all, they're paying high value to, and they can't get them all on the side. But I do it was a bizarre kind of auction for them, I thought. I thought they could have strengthened in the Indian bowlers particularly. When you look at that lineup, just like you said, they're going to need overs from Green, they're going to need overs from Maxwell, and I think that, Alzarri Joseph is going to have a massive role there in terms of what he's going to bring, and his 4 overs are going to be, really, really crucial to how they go.
Lockie going to get a look in, you think? Or
I don't think so. I mean, I would, you go with Cam Green, you go with Faf, you go with Maxwell, and you go with Alzarri Joseph, don't you? It's as simple as that. I actually think Lockie's been struggling the last couple of years in the IPL and for New Zealand.
That's where I think I'll slightly disagree with you. I get the premise that there's teams that have got 8 absolute household names as their overseas players, but when I look down the list of guys that they've got Will Jacks, who has burst onto the international scene. He looks assured at the top of the order for England in white ball cricket. You've got the likes of Tom Curran, who has played a lot of franchise cricket around the world. So I think on game day, if Alzari Joseph, treads on a cricket ball or pulls up a bit sore, you've got someone who's got some experience. And the same with Lockie, and the same with even a Reece Topley as well, who's opened the bowling in the World Cup. So I actually think they've got the right sort of combination in terms of, they've spent their allowance really, really well.
I agree with you. I agree with you in the overseas. That's sort of if I didn't make that clear, that was the point I was making, that they didn't go out and splash the cash on those guys. And they've spent their money on their 4 guns overseas players that they think are going to play every game, and then they've backed them up with cheaper versions.
Are really good.
The backups are cheaper versions of some of the players that they could replace them with. Like a Will Jacks could fill, not quite. He's not quite Glenn Maxwell, but he can do some of the same things that he can do, and same with the seamers and stuff. So I agree with you there.
Absolutely. We're at the end, I think. We've got to the end, and we're almost on time, kind of.
Yeah.
Do we want to make predictions this early for the tournament, or do we save that for the preview show? Has anyone got an early view on who's going to lift the trophy?
Who won the auction? Who did the best job in this auction, do you think?
See,
it's a hard one. Who's the strongest team after the auction? I think if I had to pick one, I think the Sunrisers have a very, very strong side. But there wasn't auction related.
I think, you guys are not happy with Mumbai. I think they had a really great auction. And I also think CSK did a really nice job, but, very, very biased obviously there with the New Zealand side of things. But I do think that they now have so much, they have so many options that they can pick and choose by where they're playing. They can pick and choose by opposition and sort of fill a lot of different gaps with their with their overseas players and with their Indian players. So I really like what CSK and Mumbai did personally.
Yeah, I'm going to go different. I think Delhi Caps, and I think Mumbai actually had pretty good auctions. I think they've picked up a seamer in Coetzee who had a really, really good World Cup for not a lot of cash. Madushanka, who had a really, really good World Cup for not a lot of cash, and Mohamed Nabi as well. I think just adds a bit of bench strength for them. And then Delhi as well. I think had a pretty decent auction as well. Jai Richardson, Harry Brook, Shai Hope. I think. Tristan Stubbs, they've got some options there of guys that I think can come in and do a job. So they're my 2 picks.
Sunrisers, Cummins, Head, Hasaranga, 27 crore. Thanks very much. That's good buying. That's great buying.
Love it. I did think we might talk about the second IPL window, but we might be able to leave that into what's to come for 2024 and look about it in that episode.
Yeah, look, who knows what's coming up on the Top Order podcast. But at some point we'll sit down and do some planning, won't we, for what 2024 holds. Any closing business, or can we bring the hammer down on the auction episode?
Bring the hammer down.
Sold. That is it from the Top Order podcast this evening. We will be back in your feed, as we said, with our wrap-up of 2023 and a preview of 2024, all wearing the same Top Order merchandise and very dashing blue cashmere sweater as well over here. But for now, it is good night and good bless from us all here in Auckland. We'll see you soon on the Top Order podcast. Good night.